Hello everyone and welcome back to this short saga of Fabiano Caruana conquering the 2014 Sinquefield Cup. We've already checked out 3 games, so Fabiano is currently 3-0. He defeated in the first round Veselin Topalov, then Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, and in round 3 with the black pieces he defeated the highest rated player in the world, the reigning world champion Magnus Carlsen, and now he faces another most impressive player. I think I got the ratings wrong for this one. Let me just update that real quickly. FIDE's rating site is down, so I'm unable to fetch the ratings from 2014, but I think this is right. And Levon is just coming off of a loss against Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, but he also defeated Veselin Topalov in round 2, and he got a draw in round 1. So he's not doing terrible, but he did lose one game. And Fabi, for the moment, unstoppable. But even if you thought that, okay, why is everyone praising Fabi's run of the Sinquefield Cup 2014 so much? The games are, not that impressive. I mean, they're incredibly impressive, but some of you might actually think that. Well, after seeing this one, you will realize why everyone is saying that. So let's check it out. Fabi with white opens with pawn to e4. Pawn to e4. We have pawn to e5 by Levon, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to b5. Fabi goes for the Ruy Lopez, and pawn to a6. Attacking the bishop, Morphy's defense, we have bishop to a4, knight to a6, f6, and castles kingside, and bishop to e7. And Levon is coming off of a loss, so you know that if Fabi allows it, if he plays something like rook to e1, of course Levon will opt for the martial attack against the Spanish setup, but we have pawn to d3. Fabi avoids it altogether, goes for the Martinez variation. We have pawn to b5, attacks the bishop, bishop to b3, and castles kingside. We have knight to c3, d6, and pawn to a3. So nothing new here, and it was very, very standard at the time. Knight to a5 attacks the bishop, bishop to a2, and bishop to e6. Offering a trade of light square bishops, Fabi goes for it, captures, and pawn to b4. Chases away the knight, knight to c6. It's better than knight to b7. Knight to b7, and you can play a4 with the knight on c6. The b4 pawn is attacked, so this is definitely better, even though for the moment it does block your c pawn, and at some point you do want to play c5, but that's just how it's played. We have bishop to d2, pawn to d5, striking in the center, rook to e1, and queen to d6, and now knight to a2. With the defense of the b4 pawn. Also, we make room for c4 if needed. So many possibilities here, pawn to a4 being the main one, and now knight to d7. And there are some games that reach this position, but after this game was played. So it is now effectively, as of move 15, that we have reached a position that has never been reached again. So, okay, queen to e2. Nicely developing the queen, connecting the rooks, also adding more defense to the e4 pawn, and Levon closes the center. Pawn to d4, now leaving the c2 pawn as a backwards pawn, and it could be a long-term target. For example, if you can play c5, trade off the c pawn, get the rooks on the c file, it's not going to be easy to defend that pawn. We have rook e to b1, now adding more defense to that b4 pawn to execute a4, and knight to b6. We have knight to c1 and knight to a4. Preparing pawn to c4 in some lines, so knight to b3, also a good square for the knight. Now you have access to a5 and c5, and rook to f7. Levon says, this is nothing really, I can just double up on the f-file and my position is awesome. But Fabi plays rook to c1. He hints that he is preparing either c3 or pawn to c4, so maybe rook a to f8 right now would be ill-advised, to say the least. For example, c4, d captures, bishop captures, and it's not that great. This pawn on d3 is very weak, but it's getting pushed to d4 on the next move. It's defended by the bishop, by the knight. So that's also one of the problems. So after this rook to c1 idea by Fabi, Levon plays rook to d8. He says, all right, you can push the c pawn, but the d3 pawn will fall. So okay, knight to g5 attacks the rook, and now rook to f6. You could also play bishop captures on g5, but Levon prefers to keep the dark square bishop. We have rook to f6 and queen to h5, putting pressure on the h7 pawn. We have h6 attacking the knight, and knight back to f3. Rook d to f8, now doubling up on the f-file, and rook to f1. we have rook 8 to f7 and the rook 8 to e1 and bishop to f8. So here it's very, very hard to actually find a useful move for black. It's sort of a position where you're thinking, okay, Fabi's on a winning streak. He won his last 3 games. There's nothing he can do here with white. We could just repeat rook f8 and then maybe, you know, see what it does. But Levon played bishop to f8. So it's hard to say if this is a losing move or anything. It's probably not, but it does make it very, very difficult for him to parry what Fabi will throw at him next. We have pawn to h3, and now Levon played pawn to g6. Now, the reason for this further weakening of the king side is that if you just repeat moves, let's say you want to play bishop f8, bishop to e7, and you know, just offer a draw. It's not so easy. Knight to h2, and already this rook is looking very weird on f6. You have to make room for it. For example, knight f6, the rook goes back, and already bishop captures on h6, and this is not possible to defend. For example, g captures, pawn to f4. Now the rooks will also come alive, and after something like e captures e5, and this is now really, really bad. For example, queen to d5, you're going to play knight captures on h6 with check, king g7, rook to e4, and black is again without a move. The rook is falling on the next move. You cannot save it. For example, knight c3, you get the knight into the game, knight captures on f7, rook captures on f4, and that's it. How do you defend here? It's not happening. Captures, and after something like knight captures on e5, rook captures on d4, attacks the queen, and that's pretty much it. There's no move that you can make here. It's a really, really bad position. For example, you play queen to c6, queen captures on e5, you cannot defend the knight. If you don't move the queen, then you're going to lose the queen. So yeah, queen captures on e5 is coming next. Whatever you play, unless you play something that allows rook captures on d5. So it's not a position where you can just waste a move. So that's why Levon played the seemingly active pawn to g6, and now queen to h4, queen to e7, looking for a way to trade queens, and queen to g3, and now bishop to g7. So okay, you did weaken your king side a little bit, but you have a bishop on g7, and if you can maybe find a few more active moves, you are definitely back in the game. But Fabi looks at this position and he decides, okay, yeah, I'm 3-0, I just defeated Magnus Carlsen with black. Why not create a masterpiece in round 4? So have at it. Feel free to pause the video and try to find this a most Fischeresque idea while I give you a couple of seconds. So, for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on looking very, very deeply into the position and finding this hidden secret. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is knight to a5. It looks like, well, of course, why not? Let's remove the defender of the e5 pawn and capture the pawn on e5. So, of course, let's do that. And why don't we just do it right away? We could also play knight captures on e5 right away. Well, you could, but then you put your queen under the mask of the bishop, rook captures on f2, and that's no fun. Now you have to move, and then rook captures on f1, everything gets traded off, and black is back in the game. So that's why knight to a5 is extremely tricky. How do you handle it? You could throw in the tricky rook captures on f3. As Fabi already decided that he will give up some material, you might give some material back. The problem is knight captures on c6 comes with an attack on the queen, and the capture of the queen with the knight will come with tempo. So you're lost whatever you play. Rook captures on g3, knight captures on e7, check, captures, and you're up the exchange, and your position is much better. This is just easily winning for white. So after knight a5, Levon said, all right, knight captures on a5, but Fabi does not capture back. Fabi plays knight captures on e5. So obviously you don't save the rook, you save the knight. Knight b7, you're just up a piece. Is this compensation enough? Knight captures on g6. And how to continue here? Capturing is possible, but it doesn't really do all that much. For example, captures queen f6. Fabi will never trade queens, just queen g4, and you have all of these weaknesses. The e6 pawn is weak, the h6 pawn is weak, next f4, f5, e5 are coming, the rooks come alive, and the knights are just too far away from the action for them to even matter this game. So after knight captures on g6, queen to d8, getting the queen out of harm's way, and now pawn to e5. Attacks the rook, rook to f5, and now pawn to f4. So Fabi not rushing anything, he's really slow playing this. The knight does look a bit vulnerable on g6, but it's actually perfectly fine. And now pawn to c5. You could also throw in a knight to c3, but at this point it's very, very hard to find moves for Levon. Plus he's down to 12 minutes on the clock. He plays pawn to c5, and he burned almost all of his time here. So he did obviously decide against knight to c3. So he plays pawn to c5, and now knight to h4. Attacks the rook on f5, rook to h5, and now knight back to f3. King to h7, unpinning the bishop, and now queen to g4. Again attacking the rook, rook to h5. Rook h to f5, and again knight to h4, and you will win that rook. We have king to h8, knight captures on f5, rook captures on f5, and queen to g6, attacking the e6 pawn, queen to e7 defending, and now pawn to g4, preparing to launch an attack against that h6 pawn. So rook to f6, rook to f8, and pawn to f5, opening up the bishop here, and there is nothing more Levon can do here. He offers a queen trade, but Fabi even obliges. Queen captures, rook captures, and pawn to f6. It's still possible to defend the h6 pawn, but it doesn't matter. Bishop to f8, pawn to f7 by Fabi, rook to e7, and now rook to f6. Absolutely beautiful. The h6 pawn is dropping next, and the two knights are still out of the game. So okay, let's bring one of them back in. Knight to b6, bishop captures on h6. We have knight to d7 attacking the rook, and now look at this, rook e to f1. Fabi just continues playing miraculous moves here. He wants all of his pawns. He's gonna start pushing next, and there is nothing that Levon can do. C captures on b4. The problem with capturing the rook here is that you don't touch the knight. You play bishop captures on f8. Knight was also defending on f8, and now after rook captures on f7, rook captures on f6, and let's say after captures and captures, this is completely winning for white. There's nothing you can try. If c4, you can even play bishop c5. Point being that if you capture, then this passed pawn becomes unstoppable, and if you try something weird, then pawn to f7, pawn to f8. So there's nothing to even try here. King to g8 stops pawn f7, but now bishop captures on d4. White is up 3 pawns, easily winning this. So after rook e to f1, c captures on b4 was played, a captures on b4, and bishop captures on h6. But now rook captures on h6 with check. King to g7 attacking the rook. Here Fabi just played rook to h5, and he was in this position on move 50 that Levon Aronian resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Fabi again not just wins, he's 4-4, but he does so by playing this wonderful Fischeresque brilliancy, where he just gives up a full piece for some, long-term counterplay. And as he said in an interview after the game, I will also put his interview after this game, first link in the description below if you want to watch it. It's 2 minutes long, so it's not terrible. I had good chances to win, and it was a lot of fun, so I decided to go for it. Very humble, and he's humble for the entire 2 minutes, so it's hard to watch all of this humbleness. But yeah, why you resigned here is that there's nothing you can even try. Like, how do you continue here? There's no piece you can move. If the knight moves, f8 happens. The rook has nowhere to go. The knight, really no squares. You could play knight to d8. Okay, that's one square that you have, but still f8 queen. With check, knight captures on f8, and now just rook to g5. This rook to g5 check is the problem in pretty much all the lines. King h6, for example, rook to g8, and now you're winning the knight. It doesn't matter what you play. King h7, rook captures, and now you're just up the exchange, and up 2 pawns, of course, easily, completely winning. And after rook to h5, let's say you don't play an idea, let's say you block the pawn, knight to f8, again, rook g5 just ruins your day. King h6, or you could play king to h7, but then rook to g8, or if king h6 attacking the rook, also rook to g8. Next move, rook captures. There's no square for this knight. You could move it, but again, you could promote, but rook f6 check is much cleaner. For example, Now, if knight captures, you will play f8 queen, and that's it. Black just gets checkmate, rook to h8 with check, king to g6, and queen captures with checkmate, or any of the other mates that occur. So, of course, Levon resigned, and Fabi is now on 4 out of 4, continuing the tournament of his life. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very much enjoying covering this. I know I've been saying I'm going to cover it, and it's been forever, but yeah. I don't think I've actually ever seen Fabi's games from this tournament, and now seeing this one, you know, like many of you, you know, the first 3, even the win against Magnus, okay. Maybe it's not some supernatural ability that Fabi is showing here, but after this engine-like victory against Levon here, I mean, he's just playing, he was definitely playing the best chess of his life. So yeah, very much looking forward to round 5 against Hikaru Nakamura. I would like to thank Robert Stadelman, Andrei Schrade, Robert Palandek, GersnyChessFestival.org.gg, and Frank VH Schaefer for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.